Hello, and welcome. Tonight, we'll drift slowly through the world of ancient Rome, but not the world of senators and poets, not the polished marble or the roaring games. No, we'll begin below the mosaic floors. In kitchens, in fields, in cramped quarters behind grand villas, in the quiet spaces where work never ceased and voices were rarely heard. This is a story of endurance, of those who were forced to live lives not fully their own, who bore the weight of empire, often in silence. And yet, it is also a story of resilience, of rhythm, of daily habits, of finding meaning even in the smallest freedoms. Over the next 2 hours, we'll move slowly through 4 quiet corners of Rome. First, you will imagine yourself in the place of a Roman slave, not at the height of spectacle, but in the softness of morning chores and silent tasks. Then, we'll explore the fading figure of Spartacus, not as a hero or villain, but as a man caught in something much larger than himself. From there, we'll walk through the ash-covered stillness of Pompeii, not to chase disaster, but to gently observe what daily life once looked like, in inked graffiti, broken tiles, and bread ovens frozen in time. And finally, we'll all look to the opposite end of Roman life, the comfort of a senator's household, a world of order, ritual, and curated calm. Let your body relax, let your breathing slow, and imagine yourself beneath a Roman sky, somewhere between dust and marble. Imagine the sound of water dripping into a basin, a faint breeze, warm and dry, slipping in through a small window carved into stone, the scent of old olive oil, damp linen, and something slightly metallic, perhaps from the tools hung on the wall nearby. You've woken before sunrise, not by choice, but because it is expected. You are not your own. You are property, in the eyes of the law, and in the mind of your master. You are a bond slave. Now, that might mean many things. In this vast empire, slavery was not one thing, it was many. You might be working in a field in Sicily, your back bent beneath the sun. Or you might be indoors, lighting lamps in the home of a wealthy family, your duties performed in silence. You might have been born into this life, or captured in war, or sold into it through debt or punishment. There is no single version. But today, let us imagine you are domestic, a household slave in the city of Rome itself. Your day begins early. You rise from a straw mat in the corner of a storage room. Others sleep near you, some older, some younger, all tired. You move carefully. You must prepare water for washing, set the fire for breakfast, and sweep the atrium before your master wakes. The marble floor must be clear of leaves. The bronze must shine. You do not speak unless spoken to. You do not rest unless permitted. You do not own your name. Your clothes are simple, a draped tunic, often worn thin. If it tears, it must be patched before your next task begins. The villa hums with quiet footsteps. The villicus, or overseer, watches closely. He too is a slave, but one trusted with authority. He holds a tablet of your chores for the day. There is no discussion, only nods, only motion. You may be sent to the market, to carry water, to fetch firewood, to grind grain at the hand mill, an endless circle of stone on stone. And you are always observed. For theft, for delay, for impudence, punishments vary. Some are swift, some are public, most are quiet, yet deeply felt. The hours pass slowly. The city is alive around you, but distant. From the courtyard, you hear merchants shouting. From the nearby street, the clatter of carts over cobblestones. The scent of roasted garlic wafts from a thermopolium nearby, a scent you may not taste today. At midday, your master dines. You serve quietly. He and his guests recline, laughing softly, debating philosophy, politics. You refill the wine, Clear the bowls, remove crumbs from embroidered cushions. You are invisible, yet essential. Later, you might be called to assist in the bath, to pour water, to scrape oil from skin with a strigil, to fold linen towels. Then to clean the room once they've gone. Evening brings more work. Candles must be trimmed, rooms swept, footwear arranged. A scroll set aside for reading if the master wishes. And only once all is still may you return to your corner. Not to sleep deeply, but to rest just enough for another day. And yet, not every moment is hardship. There are conversations shared with fellow slaves, stolen whispers in the hall. There are patterns to the day and comfort in routine. Some masters are cruel, others merely indifferent. And in time, you learn which is which if you serve well. For many years, there may come freedom, manumission, a formal release. You would then become a freedman, still marked by your past, but legally your own. But for now, you are not free, and the rhythm of your life continues, softly, constantly, without pause. Let us now shift gently. Let us leave this small room and this quiet life of labor, and turn to another figure from this world, a man who, like you, began in chains, but whose name would echo through time. Spartacus. Let the sounds of the household fade now. Step away from the narrow servant corridors and the gentle clatter of wooden bowls. Instead, imagine an open space, a flat expanse of dry earth. The air is warm, slightly still, and carries the smell of sweat, of dust, and oil rubbed into leather. This is a training ground, and among the rows of men, practicing with wooden swords beneath the watchful eyes of Roman instructors, there is one who moves with unusual control. His name is Spartacus. We know little about the man himself. His story comes to us in fragments, scattered mentions in Roman accounts, later retellings shaped by politics and imagination. But what we do know is enough to trace the shape of his life. Spartacus was likely born in Thrace, a region north of Greece, mountainous and wild. He may have served in the Roman military at one point, but for reasons unknown, he was enslaved. He was purchased not as a household servant, but as a gladiator, trained in the city of Capua, at a school owned by a man named Lentulus Batiatus. There, life followed a strict pattern. The day began before sunrise. Training was constant. Drills, sparring, weapons practice. Meals were heavy in carbohydrates, barley porridge, bread, designed to bulk muscle, not please the palate. Each man slept in a locked cell, surrounded by walls, guarded at all hours. To be a gladiator was not glory, not yet, and for Spartacus, it seems. Something stirred. Not rage, not ambition, but perhaps a quiet, growing unwillingness to accept the life assigned to him. In 73 BCE, the moment came. With around 70 other men, Spartacus escaped. The details are unclear. Some say they used kitchen knives. Others say they fought their way to a cache of real weapons. They fled into the countryside, not toward a city, but toward the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. There they gathered strength. At first, this was no army, just fugitives, armed, determined, but without clear direction. And yet, something about Spartacus brought cohesion. He was not the only leader. Names like Crixus and Enemos appear as fellow commanders. But it was Spartacus who began to form something larger than a band of runaways. Word spread. Other slaves began to flee, to join them. Farm laborers, shepherds, mine workers. People who had lived in silence now moved toward the sound of change. Roman authorities dismissed them at first. They sent small forces, easily defeated, but the group grew, from hundreds to thousands. Still, we must resist the temptation to imagine this as a grand rebellion in the modern sense. There were no manifestos, no demands, only the shared desire to no longer be owned. Spartacus led them south, then north. His path shifted, perhaps in strategy, perhaps in confusion. He defeated Roman forces repeatedly, not with superior weapons, but with unpredictable tactics. His men used vines to scale cliffs. They traveled at night. They scattered and reassembled, but Rome adapts. Eventually, a seasoned commander was sent, Marcus Licinius Crassus, a man wealthy, calculating, and determined to restore order. And slowly, the net began to tighten. Spartacus tried to break through. He is said to have sought passage to the sea, hoping to escape by ship, but fate or betrayal denied him. The final battle came in 71 BCE on a plain in southern Italy. We do not know exactly where Spartacus fell. His body was never definitively identified. He died, they say, fighting, not hiding. In the aftermath, thousands of his followers were crucified along the Appian Way, the road leading back to Rome. A warning, a spectacle. But the man, the spark, was gone. And yet, centuries later, his name remains, not because of the battles he won, but because of what he represented. A slave who refused the life handed to him. A fighter who never claimed a throne, but who dared to say, quietly, steadily, no more. Let us now leave the battlefield behind. Let the clash of metal fade into memory. Instead, let us turn our gaze toward the ash-covered quiet of a once lively town. A place where no one knew. That time was about to stop. Now, imagine the air still, not in fear, but in pause. A silence settled not in the dead of night, but in broad daylight, held in place for nearly 2,000 years beneath a quiet blanket of volcanic ash. Pompeii, a Roman town near the Bay of Naples, not the grand capital, not the center of the empire, but a smaller place, busy, comfortable, ordinary, and that's what makes it so extraordinary. Because unlike much of Roman life, which comes to us through written records or faded monuments, Pompeii remains not in words, but in details. Streets, shops, kitchens, tools left on counters, jugs still resting in corners. It is a place where the rhythm of daily life was interrupted mid-step and preserved in stillness. Let us walk through it now, softly. You begin on a narrow stone road. The surface is uneven, rutted by cartwheels, polished by sandals. On either side, tall buildings lean forward, their walls coated in fading plaster, some in soft pinks, others in warm ochres. You pass a thermopolium, a street-side tavern. It's early in the day, but already clay jars are set into the stone counter, their contents once filled with lentils, chickpeas, spiced wine, or stewed meat. A bronze ladle lies nearby. No one had time to put it away. Farther along, the laundry. Here, slaves once trod on cloth in large basins, using a mixture of water, clay, and yes, urine, to clean the fabrics. It smells acrid, sharp, but effective. The garments were hung on rooftop lines, crisp in the Mediterranean sun. You pass homes, some simple, others more elaborate. One has a tiny entryway with a painted mosaic. The word salve, welcome. Inside, a small atrium catches sunlight through an opening in the ceiling, where rain once trickled into a central pool. A bronze figurine stands on a shelf, a household god, protecting the space. There are bakeries, too. Flour was ground using large stone mills, worked by hand, or by animals. The bread ovens still contain petrified loaves, round, scored at the top for easy tearing. Some even bear stamps, marks of ownership or origin. In the public square, columns surround what was once the forum, a space for conversation, trade, and civic announcements. Here, graffiti clings to the walls, scratched hastily with charcoal or chalk. Some are political slogans, others more personal. I was here. I love her who wrote this. Secundus says hello to his friends. Moments caught in passing. It was a business. It was a business. It functioned. Then it stopped. And above it all, Vesuvius silent now. But in 79 CE, it erupted with little warning. People fled. Many escaped. But others did not. And while we do not dwell on tragedy tonight, we note its consequence, the preservation of life, not in death, but in pause. Pompeii is not a city of ghosts. It is a city of echoes, of the sound of sandals on stone, of children laughing in a courtyard, of merchants weighing figs and dates, of the soft sweep of a broom, of ordinary voices stilled. And so we wander its streets today, not to marvel at the end, but to witness what once was. Let us leave now. Let the ash settle behind us, and turn toward a very different rhythm, a life of softness, of marble, of perfumed oils and quiet thought. We now enter the home of a Roman senator. Now, step away from Pompeii's narrow lanes and sun-warmed tiles. Step instead into a quieter, more ordered space. Imagine an early Roman morning, not in the marketplace, but inside the shaded halls of a senator's stillness, a private household tucked behind high walls, where wealth speaks not in shouts, but in careful arrangement. This is not a palace, but it is large, and everything within it has its place. You begin at the entrance, the vestibulum, where the air is still and cool. A slave has already swept the stone floor and sprinkled the threshold with water to keep the dust down. To your right, a mural shows mythic scenes, gods and warriors, painted with soft, fading colors. As you enter the atrium, sunlight pours in through a square opening in the roof, the compluvium. Below it, the impluvium, a shallow basin, collects the rain. You can hear the faint drip of leftover water from the night's dew. This space is quiet, ceremonial. Here, the family shrine stands. Small bronze figures of Lares and Penedes, the household gods, are adorned with fresh flowers. Around the atrium, the family's daily rhythm begins. The paterfamilias, the senator himself, is seated on a wooden chair, his toga carefully draped by a servant before sunrise. His hair is lightly oiled, his sandals polished. He is reviewing a wax tablet, notes prepared the night before, perhaps by a slave trained in shorthand. His morning begins not with breakfast, but with duty. Clients arrive at the door, petitioners, dependents, business associates, all seeking favor or advice. They wait patiently in line, and one by one, they are greeted. Briefly, the senator speaks softly, gestures calmly, offers a few words, then sends them on. This salutatio is not a burden, it is ritual. Afterward, he retreats into the tablinum, his private study. Here, scrolls are stacked in neat rows. A low desk holds writing instruments, styluses, ink pots, parchment. The room smells of wood polish and faintly of smoke from the nearby brazier. At mid-morning, the senator steps out into his peristyle garden, a peaceful courtyard ringed with columns and shaded walkways. Here, trimmed hedges line pebble paths. Birds chirp softly in the distance. A slave kneels by a fountain, scooping fallen leaves from the surface. This is where he finds stillness. Perhaps he dictates a letter. Perhaps he listens to a philosopher, or debates quietly with a visiting scholar. And when it is time, he dines. The midday meal, prondirum, is light. Bread, cheese, a few olives, a drink of watered wine. Later, in the triclinium, the formal dining room, dinner will be more elaborate. There, reclining on cushioned couches, he will host other senators, family members, or poets. Plates of stuffed dates, stewed lentils, roasted fish, and honey cakes will pass slowly from hand to hand. Between courses, there will be poetry, music, or thoughtful conversation, but always quiet. always measured. Slaves will tend to the guests without interrupting the flow. Oil lamps will be lit as the sun begins to fade. And when the final dish is cleared and the guests have gone, the senator will retire to his cubiculum, the sleeping room. It is small, unadorned. The bed is raised slightly from the floor with a linen cover. There is no fire here, only blankets and silence. Outside, the villa grows still. The lamps are dimmed. The courtyard cools under moonlight. And within, the rhythms pause until the next day begins again. A day of duty, structure, reflection. The life of a Roman senator was not always dramatic, but it was precise, structured. Measured like time in a sundial's slow shadow. Now, let us leave him to rest. Let us walk once more through the quiet garden, past the atrium, and out into the darkened Roman street. Let us prepare to return to ourselves and to the present. And now, the streets of Rome fall away. The chatter of diners, the clang of amphorae being stacked, the steady hum of footsteps on marble. All of it fades like mist in the early morning sun. You have walked through 4 quiet corners of a vast and ancient world. You have swept the atrium floor, ground grain in silence, and felt the weight of servitude in a place where freedom could take a lifetime to earn. You followed a man named Spartacus, not just in revolt, but through uncertainty, through firelight and whispers. As he led those who had once been unseen, you strolled past the warm ovens and quiet graffiti of Pompeii, touching, gently, the ordinary details of life stilled by ash, bread left uneaten, doors left ajar, names still carved in stone. And finally, you stepped into marble corridors and perfumed stillness, into the daily rituals of a Roman senator, where power moved not with shouts, but with silence, scrolls, and studied poise. In each of these places, there were people who rose before the sun, who scrubbed and waited, and wondered, who wrote on walls, who listened instead of speaking. They lived in a rhythm of structure and survival, and while their empire has long since passed, the rhythm remains. A pulse beneath history, a gentle reminder that lives were lived before ours in rooms now collapsed, under skies that knew a different language. Tonight, you've walked beside them, felt the cadence of their days, and now you may let them go. Let the streets grow quiet. Let the candles burn low. Let the empire slip back into sleep. And as you lie still, in this time, in this moment, know that the past is at peace, and so are you. Good night.